parents can really do a lot to setting their kids up for success in a relationship by just modeling for them that we can talk about this comfortably. And even if I didn't know the answer right off the bat, I would learn, I would figure it out from safe sources so that they didn't have to go hunting for the answer and then probably stumble into all sorts of negative things.
And in my darkest times, you got me feeling like life is good, yeah. Life is good, yeah. Yeah, in my dark.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to our next episode of Epic Marriage. We're so grateful to have our good friend Chelom Leavitt here with us again. Thank you so much for joining us during this busy time.
I'm so happy to be here.
You know, it was really cool. The last time we were talking, we just were talking about like the human body and our soul and the divine design behind all of that. And that included our sexuality and who we develop into as adults. And towards the end of the episode, we got talking with you about, man, it's so important that kids understand this information.
Yeah.
So many of us adults have to like unlearn improper information, improper views on chastity, incorrect views on what it means to be virtuous or lovely or clean. And so I just was thinking, if we could have you back and help our listeners understand, one, why it's important to understand this on a base level for themselves, and two, understand why it's important to teach their kids. Immediately for you, what comes to mind when I broadly touch on those?
I'm just so grateful that you guys are opening up this topic. It's important for a number of reasons, right? We know that if parents were more comfortable talking about sexuality and really guiding their children through their own development, we would have far fewer problems, hang-ups, missteps in early marriage. We wouldn't be so ashamed about our sexuality. And so, yeah, I think it really begins with the parent-child relationship. And unfortunately, parents have been so awkward. You know, they themselves weren't trained very well. So they feel like, oh, I don't have the vocabulary. I don't have the confidence to talk about this. So we just tend to like shy away from it. And so what we've done is we've abrogated our responsibility to teach this very important topic. And so who do our kids learn it from? The two worst sources there are, their peers and the internet. So they are not going to get good information there. In fact, they're going to get a lot of misinformation. And so really as parents, we have to say, more than my own comfort, more than my pride, more than, the awkwardness, I need to value what my children need. And what they need is good information from a reliable source who loves them, who is invested in their success. And that's parents.
I love that so much because you're so right. Like nobody cares more about your kid or what's going in their brain than the parent.
Nobody should care more, right?
Nobody should, and really nobody can. I don't think.
True.
We can believe
Nobody
others
can.
do, but I don't think they do.
Yeah, I agree.
Were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, just the whole point you brought up about caring more about your child's success and development than your own beliefs, insecurities, awkwardness, disbeliefs, like misunderstand, like whatever it is, like wherever you came from, or taught it, because maybe you came from like really great like upbringing, like under this topic, and you can pass that on a lot easier. Maybe you didn't. So I think there is a big level of humility from parents to be able to put that aside, or not just put it aside, but overcome it, lean into it, learn, let actually like the ability of the atonement to change and heal whatever is under that umbrella, right?
Yeah.
So that you can put your child's success and needs and development as the greatest priority. Because that scares me when I hear that if you don't teach your kids, then the two worst sources are going to teach them, which is peers and the internet. That's terrible to me.
Well, I'm really glad it does, because that actually shows you're invested in your children.
Mhm.
You really care what information is getting into their head. What are they internalizing? And on this topic, we know it has long-lasting effects. It is absolutely going to impact their marriage. If they've been shamed about sex, if they think it's dirty or taboo or something that they're never going to get right, or that they just shouldn't even desire, boy, that's a really hard handicap to overcome. So parents can really do a lot to setting their kids up for success in a relationship by just modeling for them that we can talk about this comfortably. And even if we don't have the right vocabulary right off the bat, we can learn. We can learn together. We can fumble over our words and just say, I'm going to get this. I may not have gotten it the first try, but I remember practicing in the mirror before I would have conversations with my kids and just saying, this is how I'm going to present it. Then I'd be like, oh no, that was terrible. So I'd try it again. And then I'd maybe practice with my spouse, because I wanted my kids to really feel confident and comfortable about this topic. And I would say for the most part, they did. They knew this was something they could come to me with any question. And even if I didn't know the answer right off the bat, I would learn, I would figure it out from safe sources so that they didn't have to go hunting for the answer and then probably stumble into all sorts of negative things.
So what kind of phrases? What do you remember any of them? Do you remember any of like the successful conversations? Because I think that might be a stumbling block for a lot of people who are like, well, okay, I got a confidence boost. Like we're fine. I'm fine. We can talk comfortably. Like I have a great relationship with my child, but like I don't even know what to say. Like how do I present this that makes it still seem that way? And if I don't have the right vocabulary, or they're trying to find the words.
And that is key. I mean, you're making really good points that the foundational issue is, do I have a good relationship with my kids? If I do, if I see them as the individual that they are, their strengths, their weaknesses, and I really am working with them to be a good guide, a gentle guide in their life, then they're going to be pretty forgiving when it comes to stumbling over your words and not having the answer for every single question they have. One thing that I often say is, wow, that's a really good question. I don't know the answer. Will you give me a day and I'm going to come back to you and I'll have a good answer for you. And then I have my whole host of resources that I use, and I come back with a good answer. And oftentimes it's also infused with my own faith, our virtues, the family values. And so that's really nice. We know from research that parents who create an open environment that we can talk about sexuality, their children are far more likely to adopt their values on this topic than those who don't talk about this. Right? So if I really want my kids to be careful with their sexuality, protect it in ways that show that it's a really valuable part of their identity, of who they are, of how they move through life, my kids are likely to also value it that way. If I'm someone who's like, hey, just make sure you love the person, and I'm open and talk to my kids about that, my guess is they're likely to adopt those values, right? But if I don't talk to them about it and sex is awkward and uncomfortable, then our kids are left a little bit anchorless,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't quite know what they should take home from this. And so they have to kind of sort it out on their own. And oftentimes they come up with different values and different behavioral patterns than the parents would hope for.
So when is a good time to start teaching your kids? Like, I know probably a lot of our audience are like, oh yeah, this is helpful for someday down the road. Like, we'll teach about it some other time, but when's a good time to start?
The moment they're born. And I know for some people, they're like, what? How can I teach them at that point? It's like how you treat their body when you're changing their diaper, how you talk to them when they fall down and skin their knee, how you talk about how we interact with others. All of those things are teaching them about their sexuality. Especially when, our children are potty training or we're changing their diaper, are we just like disgusted by that? And it's just something we're tolerating so that they don't have a stinky diaper? Or are we saying, I am really happy that I get to help you keep your body clean. This is such an amazing body you have. And I hope you really appreciate how it heals on its own, how it's just miraculous. And so as we communicate that attitude to our kids about their own body, they start to see themselves differently. They start to see that they should have some control over their body. They need to be disciplined. They need to honor and respect this body, and they need to honor and respect other people's bodies, right? We've just communicated so much to them without even saying the word sex. And then another good example, Nick, is when our children are little and they're learning about their different body parts. I remember when my youngest daughter learned that she had an elbow, and she learned that it had a name, right? This is her elbow.
Mm-hmm.
And she went around the house, elbow, elbow, elbow. And she was delighted to have that knowledge of, this is my head, these are my shoulders, this is my elbow. And so when children learn about their genitals, oftentimes that's when parents start to get awkward and embarrassed. And so oftentimes it's when a little child is in the bathtub that they notice their genitals, right? And so they'll touch them and they'll maybe even feel a little bit of arousal, or maybe they're just simply trying to understand this body part.
Mm-hmm.
Well, from research, we know that oftentimes that's the first time children get shamed about their body. Their mom will slap their hand away and say, oh, don't touch that. That's dirty. It's not dirty, right? It's a very meaningful, important part of their body. And so we'll just instead maybe say something like, yeah, that's your vagina, or that's your vulva, right? This is your penis. And we're going to make sure that we respect it, that we keep it covered, because it's a very sacred part of who you are. And depending on the child's interest or their age, we might even say at some point in your life, when you're married, you're going to share your body with your spouse. And it's such a beautiful part of that relationship, right? So we answer our kids' questions at their level. But then we keep doing that until they're really mature enough to kind of have the whole picture of what sex is and what it isn't, where we use it, where we want to keep it protected. And I would say that age is somewhere around 8. Maybe it's 6, 7, 8, maybe it's 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. 10 might even be a little bit too late.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we want to do is to be preparing our children for what is coming down the road for them long enough in advance that anxiety about it. I'm just telling you these wonderful things that as your body develops and matures, you're going to start to have periods or monthly cycles for girls, or for our young men, you're going to start producing sperm. You might have wet dreams, and that's through no initiation of your own. This is just kind of how our bodies work. And then we might even talk about masturbation, right? That this is a small area where we can learn to gain a little discipline, right? We want to maybe refrain from trying to arouse ourselves. And here's a time where we really show our kids that we are knowledgeable, understanding, gentle, gracious, and they're safe to come and talk to us anytime they want about any topic. We are the authority who they can safely come to, and there will be no shame, right? No embarrassing moments.
Man, I love how just simple you made all of that. Like none of that feels like you have to prepare this all big lesson, or like you have to be this expert. Like you're just taking your kids' questions as they go. Like,
Yeah.
I think of my own little kids. We have 2 boys and 3 girls, and they've all come to us being like, Dad, what's this thing between my legs? Or I remember my little girls being like, they learned what a penis was because they saw our sons who are older than them. And they were like, Mom, why don't I have one of those?
Right.
And
those are good questions.
They're good questions.
It's just straight curiosity.
Yeah.
Sorry, finish your thought. I have
Exactly.
No. Well, it just is funny. And it's just very easy to be like, well, because you're a girl and girls don't have that. I remember now too, one of my brothers, I grew up in a family of 6 boys. So we didn't know girls' anatomy at all. Like we all learned the sources from our friends and the internet, like we weren't supposed to.
Right.
Just because my parents were like, I don't know how to talk about that. And I remember my brother being at our house, and my son was standing by me while I was cleaning my daughter's diaper. And he was like, Dad, what is that? And I was like, oh, that's her vulva. And he's like, why doesn't she have a penis like I do? And I was like, because she's a girl and her body is just created differently. She can do a lot of different things than your body can do. And he was like, my brother poked his head in. He's like, what is a vulva? And he was a grown man and didn't even know what that body part was.
Okay.
And so I was like, dude, you probably need to learn about and he's married too. I'm like, you should probably learn about your wife's body if you're going to understand her at all. So I don't know, just as I'm listening to you and talking to you, I'm like, okay, yeah, we can help our kids, but probably in the act of learning how to teach our kids, our own marriage, our own sexuality can be greatly enhanced because our knowledge is probably pretty limited.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, we know from research that couples aren't talking about sex in much detail, even though they're engaging in sex. They're not really communicating about it in a knowledgeable way, right? If your brother doesn't know what a vulva is, it's going to be difficult for his wife to really teach him how she feels aroused and how her body is different than his. And likely we need to engage in different things in foreplay to make, sex enjoyable for her to reach those arousal thresholds, just like he does. And so you're hitting on all the reasons that we want to start with our kids, even if we ourselves weren't taught that way. We can be that transitional character who, breaks this chain of misinformation and shame and, all of the other things that come with not letting this be a happy, open conversation.
Yeah. So I'm hearing like 3 like main things, going back to all of your explanation on kids, talking to children in their different developmental stages, right? One is positivity, like always referring to your body, their body as in a positive way. As soon as you turn like negative and say things like ew or gross or something like that, like the shame sets in. And that feels like awful as a parent when you're like, wait, no, that's not what I meant. But referring to any and all parts of your body as positive, especially when they're little and like they're just learning, right? They They didn't come understanding a body. They came to gain a body. And one of our responsibilities as parents is to teach them about their body, this beautiful divine gift that they have. And the second thing that I'm hearing is speak to them at their level. So you're not going to talk to a 10-year-old like you would talk to your 2-year-old, and you're not going to talk to your 2-year-old like you would talk to a 10-year-old, right? Like your older kids, preteens, teens, they don't want to be talked to like a toddler. They don't want to be like, they don't want body parts referred to as like wee-wees too, right? Like no, they don't want that. But also your 2-year-old like can't sit there and like hear some physiological or biological lesson on like the human anatomy.
Yeah.
So like being able to speak to them at their level and age is huge too, while they're creating these pathways truly in their brain, their mental and their spiritual and their physical connections are being made. I'll come back to the third one. I think I forgot it, but
well, you know,
to me.
Okay, yeah, I think that those are really important points. And using the right terminology, even though we're not going to, like you said, we're not going to go into depth about the anatomy of this unless they're interested as they get older. And then we'll dive into it with them. But using the right terminology from the get-go, calling a penis and not any of these made up names, we know actually increases children's self-esteem. They feel empowered that they know about their body. They haven't, there's not made up names. I remember a student in my class said that their parents just referred to all genitals as like the nether region. As that tells you nothing. You know no information from that word.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting is, and you hit on this, was that as we're talking about them in a positive, their bodies, our bodies, we're talking about it in a positive way. We're using the right terminology at their level. They are also experiencing emotions with all of this. And those get laid down in those pathways that you're talking about side by side, whether talking about my genitals and sexuality is laid down next to fear and shame, or is it laid down next to joy and celebration and wonder and curiosity, right? That goes with you through your life. That you may feel shame just about your genitals because that's how you were taught about them. And it takes a lot of like practicing the opposite to get rid of that. So we're doing so much right from the get-go, laying down not only a good understanding and a knowledge, but also positive emotions about this is joyful. Isn't it great that your body can do all these things? And then if I come at it from that perspective, my kids are going to also kind of reciprocate that and be curious in really positive ways.
I love all this because as I'm listening to both of you talk, I'm thinking of like the garden story in the temple or in the book of Genesis. And as soon as Adam and Eve realize like they're naked, they feel shame, right? So I'm like,
well, you know, who makes them feel ashamed?
Satan. Yeah.
Satan's first commandment is hide.
Yeah.
That's what he tells Adam and Eve. Hide. Be embarrassed. Be shamed about your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sad.
It is so sad.
Right.
And how cool of a role do we have as parents to counter that from the beginning? Like you're going to feel shame about your body at some point, but it's not going to be from us, hopefully. Right. And we know Satan he's going to try to come in and destroy your body and destroy your image of who you are and what you can be. And ultimately, I think destroy your ability to create, which is the only godly ability that we possess as humans, right? And we can stop that. Like we can be a positive force in humanity to be like, no, you're a human. I'm going to teach you about this beautiful gift you have to create life. it's one of the one similarities that you have with God. It's the greatest power that you have. And let's not be afraid of it. And let's learn to wield it with strength and power and dignity, because our heavenly parents do that too.
I love that. It is really a privilege as parents to be the first ones to lay down this information about this very important topic with our kids.
So I have a question. I'm trying to figure out how to like word it and phrase it right, because I'm kind of not stuck, but I'm pondering on the whole aspect of curiosity. Like kids, babies, everybody, we come here.
Grown men.
We come here, we gain a body. We have absolutely no idea what to do with our body. And then, right, we're like learning to crawl, to walk. We're learning about all the parts, all the developmental stuff. And then we're given sexuality and have no idea what to do about that. So my question is this gift of curiosity and this gift of the body, and how do we keep the curiosity and keep it innocent, but also like curiosity can lead you to some not so great places, right? If not taught correctly before, but also that can be done innocently too. I think about kids who are like exposed to pornography way too young, and it's not their fault at all.
Right.
And
they stumbled into it.
Right. Like it's completely innocent, but now
they got to deal with that.
Kind of like
it's kind of framed their perception already.
Does that make sense? Like teaching our kids about sexuality, and then they experience something and they're like, oh, I'm curious. So it sparks this innocent curiosity, but they don't quite know yet, like what the law of chastity is and what exactly to protect, like what. So, yeah.
Well, that is such an important question. The answer is a little complex, but let's dive in a little bit, right?
Okay.
So yeah, curiosity is wonderful. We never want to stifle our kids' curiosity, but we certainly want to guide it. We want to direct it in healthy ways. And so I think a lot of these things that you're talking about, again, we're laying the foundation for it when they're 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, by all them about consequences, right? If you are curious about the candle's flame, that's great, but there's going to be a consequence when you stick your hand in the fire. You're going to get burned. And so we also want to be teaching our children side by side how to be wise, how to listen to parents' counsel, how to, learn from other people's mistakes as well as their own, and understand we're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. That's part of our journey. And so I guess I would say then, isn't it wonderful that sexuality doesn't really kick in until we're 9, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there, we start feeling the stirrings of sexuality until it develops into, its most mature form. So we have a lot of time as young children to learn some of these important principles, to be disciplined, to learn right from wrong. And hopefully as parents, we're being good guides. We're helping them understand that there are boundaries we should stay within. So a loving Heavenly Father who designed our bodies gave us some guidelines how to use these bodies so that we could have the most enjoyment and success and happiness from how we use our bodies. We know we treated each other with respect and kindness and love. We want to eat good foods, right? So there's all these ways that we can teach our children there are boundaries, and there are boundaries around sexuality. If we really want it to be a power for good in our life. Now, it can also be really destructive, and we can talk to our kids about that too, but I wouldn't overemphasize that part of it. Sometimes when people start talking about the law of chastity, it becomes this long list of don'ts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really negative. What's interesting is I know, because I've tried this, I can turn every one of those don'ts into a do. So if we're saying don't have sex before marriage, I would say, sex is such a beautiful, powerful element in our life that we want to express it with someone who is completely committed to me, to the relationship. So we want to wait until marriage, until we express our sexuality with this person, because sex is so powerful. And we know actually from research that people who wait until marriage actually report higher sexual satisfaction, higher relational satisfaction, more commitment, better communication, all sorts of things. Why? Because they've developed other areas of their life instead of relying on just pleasure and sex to cope with everything. Instead, I've learned how to communicate about all sorts of topics. I've learned how to negotiate conflict. I've learned, all sorts of things instead of putting such an emphasis on sex. So that's how I talk to my kids about it when I'm saying, hey, the law of chastity really is God's guideline to us for how to use our sexuality. And here's why. A loving Heavenly Father, He wants us to enjoy this, to enjoy it successfully, to have the best possible experience. And He's told us that the environment that occurs in is marriage. When someone is completely devoted to me and I'm completely devoted to them.
That's really cool.
It is. I love that it's like this ripple effect. Everything is just better.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And, I would say this, because you guys mentioned this. How do we as parents learn to have these conversations? We actually wrote a book on a better way to teach your kids about sex. And what this book does is just kind of walks you through different conversations. And so as parents, we can practice with each other and say, oh, you know what? We really do need to have that conversation with our kids. How are we going to go about that? And then we read, and then we practice together. And that's how we start to engage with our kids in a positive way.
That's so cool. Okay, so you wrote this book. I was going to ask too, like resources.
With others. Yes, with others.
Okay, so we'll link that. A better way to teach kids about sex.
That's sex. Yeah.
Which I feel like the more resources like that we can give out, share, the better. Yeah. Or even you as parents will stumble upon the worst sources, which are peers in the internet.
Totally.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, parents really want to do a good job with their kids. They just don't know how.
Yeah.
And so you're right. The more good resources we can give them, on my website, we have a number of blogs that just kind of walk parents through how to talk about, sticky topics, whether it's masturbation or pornography or, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I love giving this example.
Okay, we'll definitely link your website because if that's full of good resources. Yeah, is it sure. Like written things, books, videos, recorded
written things, and then my Instagram will also have like just short reels about how do I bring up these topics with my kids? I haven't talked to them and now they're teenagers. How do I bridge that gap? Right? There's so many things. And I like to say it's never too early and it's never too late. We can continue to improve that relationship with our kids.
I love that message. It's never too early and it's never too late. Because I'm sure somebody along the way will be listening and be like, wow, I failed. Like I missed that window.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not the message.
No.
It's not, if you did it, great. If you didn't, well, too bad for you. we repent,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
just try to repair and make up for those things. In fact, I was teaching a conference back east, and there was this 60-year-old woman with her 40-year-old daughter, and we were talking about how to talk to your kids, and she turned to her daughter and she said, well, I blew that. And I remember they were talking to me in the hallway afterward, and I said, well, you know what, it's not too late even now.
Mhm.
The two of you can have a conversation that's really loving and intimate and brings you together when you talk about how did we navigate this and how can we do better going forward.
Well, that's making me think of once a parent, always a parent. Like you're always a mom, you're always a dad. Even when your kids are grown, they still need a mom and a dad because they're going to experience things like pregnancy and postpartum.
Right.
And that still falls under the umbrella of sexuality. It's your body. How do I navigate stuff? Like, and so being able to talk to your adult children about those chapters too.
Mm-hmm.
Really
Yeah.
helpful.
You know, it's interesting. I served my mission in Taiwan, and in the Chinese culture, like it's really regular to have 3 generations living together in the same. And I thought it was weird at first, but now the more I reflect on that, I'm like, I kind of hate that Western society tells you you're 18 and now you're an adult and move on. And like, I know many parents who are just like, I'm done being a parent. Like, there's nothing else I can do now. And I'm like, no, like, your kid has never been 30 years old or 35 or 40, but you have. So you should at least give them some information, and it'll look different than when they were 8 versus when they're 45, but still be their parent because they still need a parent, and their kids need grandparents. Like,
Yes. And research is pretty clear that grandparents who are more involved with their grandchildren provide an additional protective factor for that grandchild, right? If I'm not getting along with my mom and I'm really ticked at her about whatever and I'm giving her the silent treatment, and let's say it's not even like warranted, but there's a little breach in that relationship. How if there's a grandpa or a grandma who can still have influence in that child's life and say, I know you're mad at your mom or your dad, but here's some good guidance and help. We need more than just parent child. We need that additional protective factor of grandparents if we can possibly have it.
Yeah.
man, that's that makes me want to do a whole nother episode on like intergenerationality and how important that is to having a successful marriage. Like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we could talk with you forever, Shalom.
We could.
Well, you guys, I'm serious about this, and I'm not telling you how to do your business, but we just need to talk regularly. When things come up, there are topics that we just need to be super open about. And, one thing that I really feel lately is so important for us to talk about is what happens in our marriage when we've been betrayed, either big or small. How do we handle that? What if it is sexual? Is there life after that? Can we still stay married? The answer is a resounding yes, if the work can be done by both people. And so, there's so many things that we need to be shedding light on for how to let sex be a powerful influence for good in our relationships. And sometimes when it isn't, how to repair that.
Yeah.
We do need to do a whole, not just episode. We need to do a whole
like
series.
a series on that.
We do. But I love how in this one, the emphasis on children, the innocence of children, teaching them the beautiful gift that their body is. How much of a privilege that is to hold that in your hands as parents, and how big of a responsibility that is to hold that in your hands, right?
Mhm.
Like you literally receive them. They come here with no clothes on, nothing. And I think about the first time I held every single baby and they had absolutely nothing on and they were just placed right on my skin. There was nothing between us. And they were
They were good.
They were good. They were perfect.
Yep.
Everything about them was perfect. And then they literally, their naked little bodies were placed on me. Like, okay, now it's your responsibility to nurture all the things, but to teach them and help them grow and develop into understanding the gift that their body is without anything on.
I love that. Our bodies are a gift. We learn like we could have never learned just being spirits, right? We learn about emotion and the huge power that is. Wow, there's so many things we could talk about. But yeah, emotion, the strength of their body, the way that our bodies can literally bond with each other, right? That we have these higher levels of oxytocin that bonds us to one another. And how powerful that is, that we experience all of that through our body.
Wow. I love that. Chelom, it looks like we have many more episodes to film together.
Many more.
I'm delighted. I'm delighted with it. You guys are doing a good thing.
I just want to invite any listeners to questions wherever you listen, YouTube or any other platform that you listen to it on, or you watch it on, or on social media, wherever. Ask questions, because not only does that help us see what's like heavily on people's mind, but also specific questions about this topic here, like. Maybe, and we'll tag Chelom and everything, so she can just comment and give her 2 cents and stuff.
Yeah,
give her advice and knowledge on how to maybe navigate some specific scenarios that we've given, like a big blanket here that hopefully has been uplifting and powerful and motivating and encouraging. That's always how we want to leave and end every topic.
Yeah.
But this is a big one.
This is. And to the viewer, I just want to reiterate or emphasize to you, maybe for the first time, this is your first time hearing it, but epic marriage is not about like the pride of your marriage or me and Alex having the coolest marriage ever. It's not that. It's we're chasing an ideal of an epic marriage, and we want everyone to have that. And so we're going to people like Chelom and others who have really good information on how to help you improve your marriage in a practical, simple way. So you're not stuck repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again, like we've seen so many people do before. We are those transitional characters. You heard Chelom talk about that earlier, but we are those transitional characters, the chain breakers, the ones who say, we're not doing this anymore. We're lifting our marriage to a higher standard than we've seen. And we want to live that for ourselves because we love our spouses enough to do it. We love our children enough to provide that for them. So you're part of that journey with us, and we're grateful to have you here. So let's make it the best that we can. Thank you so much, Chelom. We will see you next week.
Thank you. Always. Thanks for joining us today.
If this conversation spoke to you, here's what to do next. First, subscribe so you never miss an episode. Second, share it with one couple you love, because epic marriages are built together.
And if you're ready to go deeper, visit yourepicmarriage.com for free resources designed to help you and your spouse create your greatest masterpiece.
Remember, marriage isn't about perfection. It's a sacred apprenticeship with the Lord. And every step you take with Him shapes a love story that will outlast time.
We believe in you, and we believe in your marriage, and we believe God is writing something radiant and unforgettable through your story.
Until next week, keep rising, keep building, and keep crafting your masterpiece.
This is Epic Marriage.